Hey everybody, it's Adam Tracy, and I wanted to talk about the Montenegro crypto license because I've been getting a lot of inquiries about it. And what's unique is that it really doesn't exist per se, right? I talk about money service business registration, like here in the States, and I always like hang on the word registration because it is a registration versus a license. Like it's automatic if you can fill out the form, right? Whereas a license requires an application, regulatory review, and the like. In Montenegro, which is becoming part of the EU, but it's not subject to MiCA yet. So they've created this framework, this loosely held together framework, which is kind of like this de facto sandbox, right? And the elements that go into obtaining this registration are very like check the box, right? So you're talking about like a business plan, uh, you know, AML, KYC, very bare bones kind of stuff, right? Like this is early crypto licensing type requirements. And to get through it is rather simple because again, in my interaction, like in dealing with clients, with the regulators, and just simply like reaching out to the regulators, which by the way, like if you have questions, these regulators will actually talk to you, right? You just can't be, you know, pushy or, ask too many, like they won't give you legal advice, right? But the thing is this. So you put together this like basic, you know, framework. You have a 9 month period from the date the registration is issued to actually, operate in the capacity. And like your capital requirement varies. Like they're drawing from their existing licensing structures to try to determine what that capital requirement would be, right? And the capital requirement isn't necessarily like a paid in capital requirement, it's more of a proof of funds type capital requirement. So like gaming license in Montenegro is 75,000 euro. Financial services like securities, things like that is 125,000. There's this trust type law which requires like a $50,000. So for like a full blown exchange, you can probably expect 125,000 euro as sort of this proof of funds capital requirement. And you're in this like regulatory sandbox, although they don't really call it that sandbox, right? Like there's this bill that's been floating around, but if they join the EU, then it would be superseded by MiCA. So where's the value? Well, the value is that it's really inexpensive and easy to get, right? And given that under EU law and MiCA, the clock would start on the transition to from VASP to CASP, right? Which at the end of last year, when MiCA became a reality, depending on where you were licensed, you were given 12 to 18 months. Okay, fine. So looking at it now, right, you have some amount of time till that consummation of the EU membership, plus what would seemingly be another 18 or 12 to 18 months to run before you have to get or at least conform to the requirements of MiCA, right, to become a CASP. So you have this like runway, right? Because you could obtain the license in 45 days in some cases, right? Or less. I've seen it. And depending on what the business plan is, which again, there isn't a great deal of like, inquiry. It's just sort of like check the box. And it gives you that runway in which you can sort of like get proof of concept, get brand equity, whatever the case may be. But it's really a unique opportunity, which the window is closing day by day by day by day, right? Because we're getting closer to EU membership and so on and so forth. But it's important to like take note of it and think of it as, is this an easy foothold to get into Europe, right? And then move from there. And the other thing to think about too is that with respect to MICA CASP licensing, right? I found it to be far easier whether you are already operating as a VASP in Europe or operating outside of Europe and have some amount of like track record of operations that you can lean upon when making that transition to a CASP, whether it be which like in the terms of a new application, right? So it's something to consider because it makes it that much easier, right? So it's like, okay, fine, for this minimal investment in Montenegro, I can take that and then subsequently go and transition when the time is right, if it even makes sense to, right? Because it doesn't even mean that you have to integrate and become a CASP. You could just simply say, oh, I have proof of concept here. Well, guess what? I'll go get a license in Bermuda. I'll go get a license wherever you wish to, right? But there's value in that because you have water under the bridge, track record, right? So it's but it is murky, right? Like you kind of have to like, you want like an exact quote, and there's the obvious stuff like local presence, but the central bank can make you have employees, but typically does not. So you really just need like host servers, stuff like that. It's very lowbrow in terms of economic substance and all the like, but case by case, like, the cost can vary. So it's hard to say it's X exactly because I don't want to misquote, but it's an odd closing opportunity that, it's worth at least investigating, right? So if you have any questions about the Montenegro crypto license, definitely hit me up, Adam at adamtracy.io, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.